I do record all of my Tuesday live shows. I put them on my university at sellingcoaching.com. Check out all my great resources there. I help coaches transition to a full-time business like this guy. We'll be talking about that specifically today. If you want to start off right on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com, enter your name and email. That will not only get you my free audio resource, which is called Launching Your Coaching Business, the First 3 Vital Steps. That's also going to put you in my email community so you can see what I'm doing on a weekly basis, give you some great information, and be up to date on all the great programs that I offer as well. So with that being said, Kevin Hunting, welcome to the show again, because you've been here before. So welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So this is great because last calendar year was Kevin's first official full year in business. And the year prior to that, we began our work, we would say, what about middle of that year, mid to late, something like that, right? So we can look at the dates, but towards the back half of that year, we did a 5-month group program together, and that's just Kevin started from scratch, and we launched from there. And then last year, we actually worked together like the full year, other than maybe like a month and a half, 2 months total. We started, I think, about mid-February, and we worked right up until December in one of my advanced programs.
Absolutely.
And I mean, just summary version, he kicked some serious ass. And I say it like that, like the level of maturity and consistency and confidence that you gained. And that's what I want to bring to everyone today is kind of the evolution process. Because when I had you on here last time, it was just kind of like, hey, we just had done 5 months together. You started your business off. You had made some money. But now it's like you created a real solid income last year. Like, you know what I mean? Like you always want to earn more, but like you earned a real income in your coaching business doing this full time. So Kevin, let's talk about your first full year and kind of where you feel you started off at. And let's begin to talk about the evolution. But where did you come into the year? What were you feeling like that almost brought you back to, working with me?
I can tell you that the first 3 months of last year, right around the time when I started partnering with Jeff, I'm telling you, I was sort of playing behind the scenes is what I would say. I call it passive. If you want to call it passive marketing or just even passive behavior in general, in terms of me managing my practice, I found that I was, doing my social media marketing, doing email marketing, which is stuff that, are sort of the nuts and bolts of managing your practice for most people, if you choose to use those channels. But I definitely was not out there really engaging and more actively connecting with individuals as part of sort of the growth, the sales, whatever called business development, sales process of my practice. And so I knew it. That's why I chose to partner with Jeff, is I knew I was at least aware of the fact that I'm like, you're not out there. Like the only way to make this happen is to be out there and to be connecting and be building relationships, actively doing that. So that's where Jeff, luckily I found you. When I already had found you, obviously based on the year before, but I knew that in that moment, I really needed that accountability, like what that looks like, what the operational processes could look like to help build that in a much more strategic way for my practice.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? You've been doing the work, you've had consistency in some of the fundamental elements, but the marketing, right? It's the marketing, it's the reaching out to people. So let's start to talk about some of the work that you started doing. Cause like you were in another group with a lot of other people that I had worked with as well. And when you started having the accountability and even more strategy on marketing, like you did it, man. Like you started seeing results. Talk about, if you can remember some of because you're still doing this stuff now, but talk about some of the details and the specifics of like what you started doing so people can get an idea of the actual work.
Gotcha. Yeah. So when I say I wasn't being active, what I started doing, again, with the support of Jeff and sort of guidance, is I really started building, I would say lists, like getting very thoughtful about the type of individuals that I wanted to connect with. Both existing, so people that I did have in my database, but I just hadn't connected with in quite some time, as well as new people, like people who that in my mind I want to work with. So being even thoughtful about my niche, like my focus, which is really mission-driven type organizations and individuals, I just started getting really thoughtful about developing real list of individuals, and then actually starting to build the communication, that direct one-to-one line of communication with those individuals over time. And I can tell you that it's definitely what took me from, sort of, at least in that first year, my first full year, got me from, I was sort of, it's a little bit overwhelming. I have to admit, like at first it felt overwhelming to be connecting with people that you don't have an existing relationship with. But I learned to see through like the tactics and also some of the types of communication that Jeff even shared, historical communication that he has used, and ways in which I could connect in a more authentic way, which was important to me with those individuals. I used a lot of that and started using LinkedIn, for example, using direct messaging through LinkedIn, as well as, just going to people's websites. You can find a lot through Google. There's a lot of public information out there where you don't want to obviously spam someone, but that was never the point. It was more of finding ways to connect with someone in a somewhat personal level where you wanted to work with them. And that really started to make the difference, is getting very comfortable with that. That's what I would say, is just doing it repeatedly, but also with Jeff's help was able to build out, true spreadsheets. I mean, we're talking before I wasn't using spreadsheets. I wasn't using tracking, like really tracking any type of documents that I could seriously keep track of the total number of people that I was reaching out to, how many people were getting back to me. Then again, how that led to a true one-on-one type of a discussion, and then obviously conversion to clients. So that whole piece is what I gained. And it took time, but I can tell you, after we were just chatting about this a little bit before we came live, that it's the only way to get confident. It's the only way to build a sense of confidence around connecting with almost anyone, because what you start to understand is, what a no is preceding a yes that's coming. It's kind of like, that's the way I would look at it, is it's just a no. That's it. Someone said N-O, it's a 2-letter word, and then you just move forward.
You talked about like the spreadsheet, right? You talked about like calling the people up, logging, tracking your work, and then obviously it's not so much tracking the work, right? But you're saying it's doing the work that you're tracking is the stuff that gave you the confidence that you have now, or that you developed big time last year.
Correct.
Yeah. It's all the reach outs. It's the conversations. It's what's happening in those back and forth conversations, what you learn, how to navigate them, et cetera. Correct?
Absolutely. And I mean, there's so much nuance in that space, which,
So
like I make it sound like it's not a one-off type of approach, which is what, Jeff had helped too, based on experience, was provide those different ways that you can do it, even through social media, like engagement, using social media as a channel, whether someone's posting their own content and then you can weigh in by commenting or adding some real value to the conversation. Again, it is a process that takes time, and understanding that sometimes those relationships they may not materialize within the time frame that you almost have in your head. Sometimes we have these time frames in our own mind that we're like, oh, I want to get this client by X date. It is really just the doing piece of it, but I would say they go hand in hand. Is Jeff, that the doing it is the most important piece, but without the structure and sort of the process and the tracking, that helps to create the efficiency in how you're working. And so also learning that piece of it is just how to manage my practice and learn how to optimize and get more efficient, and how I was operating was a piece of absolutely what I gained throughout our time together.
Yeah. When you talk about the confidence that you gained through all the work you're kind of outlining a little bit, talk about what that confidence is and what it enables you to do. Because yes, we know what confidence is, right? We get it. It enables you to do this stuff. But if you can kind of be more detailed, like now that you have this confidence from that work, it's enabling you to do what?
Honestly, it's enabling me to almost enter into any space. Whereas before I probably was more selective about even the people I was connecting with. I feel like every opportunity, it's the way I view it now is that there's so much opportunity, and none of it really feels like there's any barrier to trying to enter into that in terms of me trying to create that relationship or reach out, or ask, even just asking. I mean, sometimes asking is a little scary, but it's only in the asking too that sometimes this stuff really does materialize. I mean, a great example is, I'll give you a real example. I mean, I did it's through Jeff. Speaking engagements are something that I enjoy doing, and it's a great way to obviously reach a broader audience, and was able to, learn and practice that with Jeff's support. Did a huge presentation about 3 weeks ago with the whole Miami-Dade college system here in South Florida, and just had another really robust conversation with their head of leadership development and training through that oversees all of their campuses. And now we're talking about doing some partnership, an actual program, leadership type program and partnership. And it's through Jeff's work that I don't even get nervous, or, I used to get a little anxious or maybe nervous about reaching out or even having a conversation. I mean, now I'm like, following up with people just instinctively to be like, hey, wanted to see where you're at. Let's get some time on the calendar. Let's have a conversation. And it feels easier is what I would say. It just feels, there's less weight. There's less, because I honestly, I believe one of the biggest, I'd say, positive impacts of being able to step into this and learn this muscle of confidence is that you as a coach are showing up differently than when you do have that anxious kind of maybe energy. And that in itself, I think, opens even more doors, because you just sound like you're like, I know what the hell I'm talking about. I mean, that sounds so basic, but it isn't, because it's something that you have to develop over time. But once you do it, you just sound more confident. You speak with confidence. You're like, I know what I'm doing. Hey, let's talk about the needs of your organization. Where do you see the biggest need? And then really creating something around it. So I feel like it's happening more and more. Like I have another great conversation coming up with, they do entrepreneurial work here in South Florida as well, but I'm keep your fingers crossed. It's huge. Like this could be a big opportunity with them. And I had no problem asking someone, hey, would you be open to making an introduction? And they did. It's funny how if you just ask, a lot of times people are going to step in and help you. If you just say, I need help even. But again, it has taken me over this period of time to get to a place where now it just is second nature. And at first it didn't feel that way. And that's the difference where confidence starts to come in is.
That's it. Yeah. And I didn't mean to stop that, right? But that's it. So in other words, it's just like, you're just like, oh, I'm just asking now. Right. And so someone listening to this could be like, oh, I just got to ask. And that's where people could say, well, we just got to ask. But the whole point is that if you don't have the confidence or this muscle of confidence that you developed, they know that you knew that, a year ago, a year and a half ago, whatever. Right. It's not like we don't, we got to ask. It's right. But we don't know how to ask. That even if we knew how to ask, I could tell you exactly what to say. There's just, you don't have the muscle yet of confidence to actually be able to ask or do it in ways that you can now.
It almost helps you in the ambiguity of not knowing, because every example is a unique example. I mean, a lot of times
it is.
I'm not going in with a canned sort of, I may have some ideas already. That's where confidence may come in, is just, I have some ideas on what I think it could be in working with someone. But typically it's a lot of it's just working from the ground up and understanding like, well, okay, where can I insert myself? Like, where can I add value to you and your organization? And it does take time, because even in that newness at every time is going to bring up a little bit of that, feeling of, oh shit, this is the first time, or this is new for me because it's maybe a bigger organization than some of the organizations that you partnered with in the past or that I have. But it really allows you to do that and to do it gradually. Like, you don't have to, if you want to go swim with the big fish, you can go do that immediately. But it really, I think I can't emphasize this point enough. I think about how I actually see it in other coaches too, who they're not doing it. And by not doing it, they're not able to gain the confidence that really is going to take them to if you want that type of a coaching practice, that's it's the path.
Yeah. No. And even as you're talking about it, some of the language and the words you're using, as I'm listening to it, I'm like, he gets it, right? I'm hearing it. There's a deeper understanding of what you said a few minutes ago of you see opportunities that you could never see before, even if you wanted to, because you understand how things work and the makeup. And the only way you can understand that is by doing the work that you did. And you've been a gymnast, right, for a long time in our former lives. I was a fitness professional, et cetera. But it's training along the way. If you have a move, you're not going to just do, you insert the name of the move. Like, it takes years of practice just to get, a standing backflip. It just doesn't happen. Like, I'm just going to do a standing backflip. No, my son took gymnastics for, a long time. And it's just like, wow, all of those little things built up to this one standing backflip, 2 years later. You know what I mean?
Funny, I'd say that was a huge benefit, having grown up in that environment, because there's lots of parallels. It's 100%. If you're learning a new skill within gymnastics, especially ones where they have higher degrees of difficulty, it's scary as hell. It's scary as hell to leave a bar and do 2 flips with 2 twists. I mean, especially for the first time. And it's never going to be with the exact form that you need or the exact level of altitude, right? Sometimes you're gonna bite it. You're probably gonna come up short. But you understand that it's the repetition. It's within the repetition and getting incrementally better and better that you then get to the point where you're like, wow, now I can do this skill without really even thinking, and I can do it with great form and I can get and that mindset really does help, is to just sort of, the way I look at it too now, Jeff, is it's just understanding that this is how I'm growing, and it's a part of the growth that I'm just going through.
Yes.
And what I can learn from it and take with me, versus getting stuck or mired in, it didn't work, or they said no, and then that kind of can derail. A lot of times it can derail you for a period of time, but you just get up and just keep moving forward. You almost it doesn't even really have the same impact.
Absolutely. And all of this work has made you become more valuable. And as an entrepreneur, that's what we get paid for, the value we bring to the market. That's why we work harder on ourselves than we do, let's say, a job, right? And so therefore now that's how you can earn more income than you ever had. And it's only going to get more exponential, is because you're more valuable. And share what you share with me income wise, in terms of what you earned last year versus this first quarter this year, just so you're starting to see that exponential growth at this point. Talk about that.
It's my activity. So it is the repetition and frequency and consistency that I would say are the 3 factors that in this Q1 of this year, versus my last year was my first full year, as Jeff shared, in business. I'm already basically comping in what will be Q1 actually Q1's over. So I'd say by Q1 plus 1 month, so let's say 4 months versus 3 months of last year, I'm almost exceeding what I already made all of last year in the first 4 months of this year.
That's awesome.
So it's going to be more than 100%, growth. And I actually it's not 100%. I'm comping, but I hope to have 100%. So I'm hoping to double, double there will be 100% growth, I think, easily this year over what I did last year. And I'm telling you, it's because I am lessening the amount of time where I was last year, and that I wasn't doing the work that Jeff keeps talking about. But it's also because the accountability the guidance, the support, the mindset piece that you get with Jeff is what helped me get there.
Thank you.
I mean, it was all of that with the group that, you know, that I was with, obviously with you when we went through the mastermind piece, that it really helped. I mean, you got to see, not only do you get to see what you're doing and get the help and support from everybody and from Jeff, but you also get to share that with other individuals as well. And I would say that I think that's one of the biggest pieces, that if you're a newer coach and you're out there and you're watching this, that accountability piece for yourself is what can really get you out of the gate. It's like think of it as like just it's what can turbocharge you and get you to the place that you want, if that's, again, the type of business that you want for yourself.
Dude, it's so cool to have this conversation. Like I was saying before, it's the maturity that you have, right? It's just like you're refined, and it's like the time and energy you're putting in now versus the work output that you're getting in results versus, let's say, the same time and energy is just exponential, right? And you're probably you're able to put in a whole lot more work into a less amount of time, being 100% more efficient and get better results.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a process, but that's the process that I was going through last year when we spent majority of the year together, was getting so much more comfortable doing that and understanding, you know, what I can take from it and learn so that I can improve and just get better and better. And so, yeah, I mean, now I'm loving it. It's like,
it's fun.
It's fun. It becomes, actually, it does get to a point where you're like, okay, this is fun. Like, it can be a game. You can make it fun. It doesn't have to feel so overwhelming or not fun. It's like, now you look forward to like reaching out to someone and saying, hey, like, I'd love to get to know you. You know, how can we support each other?
Yeah. Yeah. But the good thing is and I thank you for all the kudos you share about me and what I do with myself and the programs, et cetera. But it doesn't work without your trust in me, your trust in yourself, and the executing of it. Because last year, if you think about it, right, we did the 2 5-month programs. So we spent 40 of the 52 weeks. That's the year, right? 40 of the 52 weeks, literally in a row. I think there might have been like a 2 or 3 week gap in between the 2 programs or whatever, but 40 of 52 weeks just on the phone. I mean, on our Zoom with our group every whatever day it was, Wednesday, for 40 weeks. And you had to show up every single week. Sometimes we showed up and we're all, everyone's exhausted from the work, but that's what it took. And look at where you're at now. So thank you for trusting and doing it, because you've shown that it's and this is possible for anybody. It's just, and this is cool part, is it's only the beginning for you.
And that is the cool part.
It really is the only beginning.
Looking forward to what's to come. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you for the people watching live and watch the recording of this. We'll be back next week for more stuff. But until then, we'll talk to you guys later.